It's hard to make good business decisions if you don't have accurate data and timely data, right? For those who study Six Sigma, there's a famous saying in it, right? Trust in God, and all else, trust the data. Right. So really getting to a point where your data is informing you on the health of your business through the financial statements. And to your point, the reason why we can look at financial statements 5 years behind and project 3 years forward is because the financial tells us a narrative of your management, a narrative of are you on task with your vision, a narrative of who you are and what your business really is, as opposed to what you believe it to be.
Welcome to Right on the Money, the podcast dedicated to inspiring business owners to overcome their obstacles, grow their business, and lead greatly. I'm your host, Janae K. Wright, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for another insightful episode. Today, we have a special focus on financial management. In this episode, we'll explore how financial systems serve as the backbone of your organization, providing valuable insights and guiding you through your strategic decisions. From understanding the story behind your financials to the impact they have on your organization's growth. We'll dive into key elements that make up effective financial governance for your organization.
Today's guest is Rod Dauphin. Rod Dauphin, MBA, is the Education Services Director for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program at LaGuardia Community College. He is skilled at strategic planning, marketing strategies, financial statement analysis, strategic implementation, and impact assessments, and has advised over 1,000 small businesses. Rod earned his dual MBA from the Zicklin School of Business in Small Business Management, Entrepreneurship, and Finance Investments. Rod assisted in the drafting of the Essential HR Guide for Small Businesses and Startups, commissioned by the Society for Human Resources Management. He also taught undergraduate courses in management organizational behavior.
In today's CEO Quick Deep Dive, we're diving into our guest's exciting new venture, Anu Shante, Let's Sing Music, this innovative digital streaming platform for a unique mission to teach children the beautiful Haitian Creole language and foster an appreciation for traditional Haitian music. We'll explore the inspiration behind this groundbreaking innovative and delve into how it's transforming language education and cultural preservation. Let's get into it. This first part is really exciting for me, right? This is financial management. This is how I started my career. This is going back to 2002, doing bookkeeping in a small office in Brooklyn, right? And some of the lessons I learned working with a new CEO of a company whose mentality is strictly on her mission and not really on understanding the business aspect and the financial management aspect of it was really insightful to me, right? It helped me grow to the financial person I am now, helping other organizations through Primus. So I'm happy to have you here, Darod. I mean, this is going to be a great conversation. Just from our normal conversations we always have, I think just helping other CEOs really understand the power of financial management and the insightfulness that it comes with it. I think we're going to have a great conversation today.
Well, thank you, Janae. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on this podcast. And I'm really excited to dive into this conversation, especially what you started about working with a CEO that was just vision driven. And if I'm understanding it correctly, you really didn't speak more to the financial backbone. So I really want to dive into that because that's one of the greatest challenges that I see amongst entrepreneurs and businesses are in the growth phase. So again, thank you, and let's get started. And by the way, great pronunciation of Anu Shante.
I tried. No, I love the name of that. I'm looking forward to talking more about that later on in the show because I think it's a great initiative and just showing how the connection between community and traditions can really be the inspiration to start a company. But with your background of financial management, I think it's going to be a great organization for growth. So, one of the things, and I'm going to start off with this, one of the things that I hear as I'm out there talking to potential clients of mine is the idea that financial management is for tax season, right? They don't need to do it every day. They don't really understand that the amount of information. This is what I always tell people: you get a great accountant, and he looks at your books for the last 5 years, he could tell you what's going to happen over the next 3 years, right? And they don't understand that's the kind of detail you can get from a books and from doing financials properly.
When I hear something like that, and I want to piggyback on that and expand it, right? When I teach or when I coach, I really break down what is an accountant, what is a bookkeeper, and then what is a tax preparer. And so the first question I ask is, those of you who have an accountant, do you see them during tax season? Well, congratulations, you have a tax preparer, right? And then when I speak to an accountant, we talk about the role of an accountant. And are they helping you with financial decisions? Or are they more of an advanced level of a bookkeeper? And then when we talk to bookkeepers, when you understand the certification of a bookkeeper, it is just someone who's taught how to use the systems and put information in. So when someone tells me I'd rather wait to the end of the year, then I usually tell them when no one's looking at your financials at all. And so don't be surprised at the end of the year, right?
Yes. I think the idea of accounting versus checkbook accounting, right, is a major issue. Like, oh, I have this much money in account, but you lost money. I don't understand how that works. And I think explaining that to people is a really important part of that. Like, I like what you said, right? There's definitely a difference, and it's kind of like the conversation I have with people in my realm of the world. Is like, you know, it's not to put down, but we're not bookkeepers. We're analysts. We use
Yes.
bookkeeping
Hmm.
to do the work, right? To help people understand that kind of concept.
At the heart of it, right? It's really about financial data. I think you started off when you started speaking about using, I wrote it down, the backbone to strategic decisions. It's hard to make good business decisions if you don't have accurate data and timely data, right? For those who study Six Sigma, there's a famous saying in it, right? Trust in God, and all else, trust the data, right? So really getting to a point where your data is informing you on the health of your business through the financial statements. And to your point, the reason why we can look at financial statements 5 years behind and project 3 years forward is because the financial tells us a narrative of your management, a narrative of true, are you on task with your vision, a narrative of who you are and what your business really is, as opposed to what you believe it to be. So I'm really excited to dive more into that conversation, have a healthy banter about that.
So let's talk about it. I know you have some elements that you like to talk about when you're talking to clients and talking to the people that you're training. Let's talk about what are those elements.
When I work with business owners, I work from businesses that are at 500,000 to somewhere around 40 million. And funny enough, at the heart of it, I always talk about how are your chart of accounts set up, right? So for those who use QuickBooks and Zero, think those are the prevailing softwares amongst small business owners. When you go into your chart of accounts, there's a description box that actually allows you to say what goes in here. So if it's utilities, don't want to put my cell phone in here, don't want to put my water bill in here. And why is that important? Because your job as a CEO is to be vision driven, which means at some point you have to be able to pass some of the record keeping along. So if I give someone a receipt and I don't give them instructions on how to categorize it, then my financials could be inaccurate. So at the very heart of it, we go right into the chart of accounts. Let's detail it so that there is a working language, a basis for everything that we do. The next thing I probably tackle, and I'm sure you do this all the time with your clients, we set up schedules. When do we look at the profit and loss statement? How often? When do we look at the balance sheet? When do we look at the cash flow statement? So that's the next layer is looking the schedule of looking and just interpreting this data. Then the third level, right? And this works for all businesses, the dashboards. What are our key data points that tell us, are we on track with driving growth, or are we negative? So if I can give just a quick illustration of that, if I can, right? So case in point, if I am, and I'll give you a quick, actually, I'll tell you a good story, but first I'll give this illustration. So this year, my net profit is at 20%, right? Means money that comes to my pocket, for every dollar I can put 20 cents in my pocket, right? Now, if I compare that to last year, hypothetically, let's say it was 40%. So year over year, this month, I'm actually doing half as good as the prior year. Well, if I don't pick up this trend until tax season, I've lost every opportunity to course correct And let's say the data was in reverse. Let's say I was doing double. I lost every opportunity to maximize that trend and expedite it. So, at some point I'll tell you a story about how I look at some people's financials and what comes out of it. But these are really the pillars that I stick to.
No, I love that. I think you're very right, right? You know, even like quarterly reviews, they're important. You just got to do a review because it's important for you to be able to look at your numbers. And like you said, it's a course correction, right? And I think one of the things that you mentioned chart of accounts, and one of the things that I talk about with chart of accounts is, the person that you're designing the chart of accounts to needs to understand it themselves, right? Like you said, really detailing out what goes in where, because it helps you keep the strategy or that timeline of where things are at all times. But including that for me is the way we manage chart of accounts for us is we do cost center accounting for everybody, right? Because I understand that you have most companies don't have one product, right? They don't have one business or one department. And so we develop chart of accounts in a way that now I can tell you, hey, this department is saving the rest of your company. Let's focus on the other departments. And that's what chart of accounts is good for. Yeah.
Once you dive into the infrastructure, the setup, it allows you as a leader to do what you do best, which is make decisions. But one of the most important things is that we have the fundamental knowledge. So when a CEO is never expected to be the accountant or the CFO, but the IRS won't exclude you from any liability that comes from the financials, right? Once you sign off, you're responsible. So really getting into the net language and allowing us to see our business. I remember I spoke with a lady one time. She came to me and she said, "Rod, I need a loan, but my line of credit is maxed out." I said, "Okay, let me see your financials." First thing I said, "Let me see your financials." And the first thing I went to was the balance sheet. And hopefully we get a chance to talk about the balance sheet and how they interact. Uh, I saw an enormous accounts receivable line, money that was owed to her. Right. So let's say the business revenue was about 500,000, the accounts receivable was about $390,000. The first thing I said was, "What's going on here?" She says, I know, Rod. They're calling me and telling me to invoice them. I just don't have the time." Right. And so this goes back to just the fundamentals of what we started this conversation with, right? So you're getting ready to take out a loan, pay interest when you have money available to you that people want to pay you. Now, I'm sure to you and I this sounds rudimentary, but again, I've actually worked with over 1,200 businesses. I feel comfortable saying 60% of them don't have the basic infrastructure in place and then are not leveraging professionals like yourself. And I hope we talk about leveraging the professionals and the dynamic to even curate their financials to their specific business needs.
One of the things about, as you mentioned, like professionals, right? One of the things that even I talk to people as I'm curating prospects for my own company, right? One thing I always talk to people about is you have to trust the person you're working with, right? Because I've been doing this for 20 years. That means I'm gonna look at, like, just like you. I'm gonna look at your financials and look at your chart of accounts, and I may want to redesign it, right? Because for a reason. Because I've had clients who have, like, they have supplies for this department. Supplies. These are all different lines of chart of accounts, and actually instead of doing department level things, and when you have a chart of accounts that's over 100 characters and 100 counts, it's unmanageable, right? And these are things that when you deal with a professional accountant and they understand your books, it's not just like you said, end of year tax preparer doesn't understand your company and doesn't understand your books. A bookkeeper is doing the data entry. They're not looking into your books or into your company. But you get that professional accountant, he's going to be asking. And here's something. This is one of the questions, right? I've been told I ask too many questions as an accountant. I don't need to know this information, right? And it's impractical for people to understand financial management without knowing the business. It's a waste of time.
The truth is this: whoever your clients are, they don't realize that they're getting above value for an accountant. What you're doing is really more along the lines of a outsourced CFO or a director of finance. So whoever is your clients, I encourage them hold on to you because you do need someone that's that invested and looking at the numbers with you, alongside of you, with your vision in line. So I find it hard to give you financial advice if I don't ask questions. I find it hard to to keep your books in order, and I'm not worried about tax season. I'm worried about growth, sustainability, and profitability and impact. And to do that, you and I are in a pseudo marriage. We are in a relationship. And the key to relationship is what? Communication, right?
So like I remember someone said one day is like the way they talk about accounting and the back office services is like the other side of the marriage, right? One person, the wife or the husband is concentrating on revenue growth and development. The other person is concentrating on business dynamics and business strategy and business growth. And without that marriage being perfectly in sync, those communications working, you're gonna have headaches every single week.
Listen, I can't tell you the amount of times when I meet with someone and they say, well, my accountant made a mistake, or that's my accountant's fault, completely absolving themselves from any responsibility in this relationship. And so as those who your viewers, I hope they really walk away from this listening and saying, you know what, let me engage, let me get the communication, so at least when this person makes a decision, I know why, and I can support it, or I can challenge it in a healthy way. But I get it all the time. Matter of fact, one of the things and again, I'll just give me a few seconds to share this. One of the things that I do, I spoke with this lady one time, and she was trying to go global with a service, an education service. I said, okay, okay. And she said, I'm going to fire my accountant. I said, wait a minute. Let's pause that. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Have you shared your vision with your accountant? No. Do you know if your accountant is set up as a tax preparer, their default is to mitigate tax liability within the confines of GAAP if you're a US based company, right? Or operate within the US, file within the US. Share the vision, then come back to me. So she went and shared the vision. Do you know what the account's response was? Why haven't you told me this sooner? Because she needed merger and acquisition attorneys. She needed some level of bookkeeping. And he said, let me just walk you through the building. Because she didn't know, he realized he owned his own building. On the main level was his whole bookkeeping team. On the second level was his team of attorneys that focused on M&A. And he had a global component to his business. And she said, Rod, I had no idea. I said, the responsibility of the business owner is to engage the conversation, share that vision. You look excited. Go ahead, Janae, talk to me.
No, it is because I see it both ways, right? Because like that accountant is messing up as well, right? You have a business that has upsells. You don't tell your clients about it, right? Like I'm in tune with my clients' information because I also do HR for them, right? And also I'm doing support. So when I'm hearing, oh, I'm hiring this many people, first thing in my mind as an accountant is, okay, let me check your budget, make sure you can hold it on. The second part is like, wait, you're about to hire 6 people. Who's interviewing them? Who's bringing them on? Where's your employee manual? So then I can start to offer other services like, all right, here's how we're going to get you where you want to get to because I can see the whole picture of your company. So I love that story. It's a great analogy of what happens.
I agree with you. There is some level of responsibility to ask the questions, but I'm always, excuse me, in my line, I am the CEO. So I have to, worst case, drive some of the conversation, but it behooves me to have an accountant or outsource CFO who engages me as well. But you'll find out, Janae, most times business owners don't want to engage in that conversation. So I'm speaking from that perspective, right? I'm speaking from that perspective. So when you ask too many questions, they may get turned off because they're not comfortable. They don't know how to answer the questions. And so this is why I always say with business owners, go back to the chart of accounts, just get intimate with the language of your books. This is about us having the same language and allowing you to really feel confident in the conversation with someone like yourself. And that now creates a dynamic duo and really scales the business to another level.
So I want us to go back. I remember you mentioned schedules of review. So let's talk about the schedules, right? The statements, and we both have accounting backgrounds, so let's not put people to sleep in the level that we could get to. But so for me, right, there is and the way I see from the conversation with my clients, there's two main schedules and then the side schedule, right? Because nobody really wants to talk about the statement of cash flows, right? So for me, it's like the understanding that the balance sheet, as we're talking about, is that overall, this is your company, this is the heart of your organization, while the P&L is like this is what's happening right now, this is this year, this is the most current information. So when you walk into a client, as you said, you start looking at their balance sheet, right? What are like the three things that you automatically look at as soon as you walk into them?
Jenny, I think the basics are, does it balance, right? It's in the title, right? Does you laugh. I can tell you a story right now. I met with a client, with the bookkeeper right then. It's the only time I've done this in my professional career. The balance sheet did not balance, and it's historical data. And I said, how does this not balance? It doesn't make sense to me. I've never seen this in my life. And the bookkeeper was right there. I said, how does it not balance? Well, we just put roundabout numbers. I said, roundabout numbers? You see your reaction? And the business owner had no idea. So I brought in my team. And when we did our numbers, I said, listen, if the IRS would have audited you, you will owe roughly about $750,000. Right? So the first thing I look at is, does the balance sheet balance? So then the next thing I look at, and I'm going to look at it from a valuation perspective. What is your asset position? No matter how small the business, if I don't see fixed assets, meaning things that you physically bought, I start wondering where you are mentally with the business. I look at debt. And I really, if we're talking very simplistic terms, I look at how much cash do you have and how much current liabilities do you have, because that tells me you have the ability to pay your bills immediately, right? And then I start looking at other ancillary things, such as if you're a service based business, accounts receivable, and then equity and things of that nature. But really, first thing I start looking at is, do you balance, which is, we should assume it is. Then I look at the percentage of your assets to your liabilities, just to make me feel comfortable that this business has some viability and some sustainability built into it.
It's hard for non-financial management people to look at numbers for a long period of time. So I've been starting to use more KPIs, right? More graphs, more information just to show them in a more visual format what these numbers mean, right? So like the kind of things you're talking about, like what exactly is their assets position for their organization? What exactly is their debt funding for the organization, so they can know like, okay, I'm in a good position. And we start putting numbers to things to help them like, here's the here's the financial health of your business, right? We need to keep it above this line so we can be okay, right? So I think we started doing that because I think it's hard sometimes. We can look at numbers all day and read them like it's a book, but some people get that starry-eyed look when you start talking too much numbers to them.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, right? That's why we talked about dashboard. I think that was number three and number four for me, which is referring to your, dashboard has metrics, but KPS has the key metrics for performance of a business. Having that as that, bird's eye view, and say, if this goes here, and then having it compared to industry data. Where do I fall along the line in my industry? If I can, I'll share a quick thing to help business owners understand the importance. So I have a daughter, right? And I have a son and a daughter. And when my daughter was born, I thought I was gonna have a second son, right? So immediately in that hospital, when I realized it was a girl, I got anxious, I got protective, silly stuff. But I used to have these dreams of someone coming and court my daughter, right? And she's older and so forth. And I would meet with the man, and the man would tell me, "Hey, I'm an investment banker. I make about $450,000 a year." And when I share this in a classroom, typical reaction, enough to pay bills, go on vacations, maybe afford a nanny. It's okay, baseline. And then I start saying how the man starts telling me that he's in debt, $200,000 in credit card debt, right? And you see how your face is? People are like, whoa, whoa. And then I said, and he has about $200,000, no, about $150,000 in loans, which is long term debt. And now people are saying, and you guys see the classroom when they see this, they're like, get away, save your daughter, all this stuff. And then I say, well, he also owns 6 high rise buildings in Manhattan, right? And uses the credit card debt just to cover monthly expenses. And the point of that is, when I told you his salary, that was his profit and loss statement. That was his revenue. That's the money he's coming in. So we felt a little bit comfortable. The balance sheet was the liabilities. And once I told you the liabilities, you now started formulating an opinion of the person, or in this case, of the business. And when I combine that with assets, never touching the revenue never grew in the business, but the balance sheet changed. And when I started talking to business owners in this way, they realize, wait a minute, I can control the narrative of my business. And then now it's, I have to drive the importance of looking at these. And then to your point, how do you want to receive the information, which is the graphs, the KPIs, and so forth. Hopefully, I didn't bore you with that story.
No, no, that's a great analogy. I think one of the things that we try to explain to certain clients, and depend on their comfort with financials, and especially we're both Caribbean, so old school Caribbean folks, they don't the terminology debt is a negative term, right? So sometimes when I'm talking to clients and they're going to get a line of credit and they're like, oh, the interest rate, I'm like, change the word from debt to investment, right? What is that $100,000 line of credit going to help your revenue look like? Right? What's going to help your business look like? And once they start thinking in that way, like not all debt is a bad thing, right? I'm not talking about credit card debt where you're going to put the car loan on the credit card. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like you're going to have the balance sheet look in a certain way, and that debt is going to help you finance the growth of your company. So I think that terminology makes them a little nervous.
The debt itself, the word is scary, and the fact of owing someone emotionally is very scary. But I always ask them, if you knew you can make $1 million and I loaned you 100,000, would you still feel uncomfortable? No, because I know I could pay you back. It's the same thing in business. I have to your point, look at it as an investment, but I have to have a plan for this investment. I don't borrow for the sake of borrowing. I borrow for the sake of growth and funding the growth. And I've thought it through on all aspects, customers, product, as well as having conversations with your financial people to help to help support you in making that decision of how much, when, and with who. But that's a great way of saying it. It's really investing into the business through this vehicle.
So we talked about the KPIs, right? My my number one KPI for my client is run rate, right? I need them to know, you spend this much money a month, you have this much cash in your account, you have this many months of capital, keep going, right? I think when I start giving that to clients, it changed mentalities, right? Because now they're like seeing into the future. I need to bring in more money by this point to ensure this happens. What's one of your favorite KPIs?
Uh, Operational cash flow. It is my number one favorite, and I wish, hopefully on another day we can really talk about the cash flow statement and how it's one of the most critical statements. But net operating cash flow is probably one of my biggest, because the true essence of the business is, if you have positive net operating cash flow and it increases, the actual viability of your business is growing. That means that your business in and of itself can fund its own growth. Not to say you should use your cash. It also means that if someone wants to buy it, there's more value. If you want to borrow money from a bank, you have a better chance of accessing debt. So for me, number one thing I always look at is always on that cash flow statement. Does my business generate net operating cash flow? If not, I have to look at my products, my customers, almost every part of my business.
No, I think the issue, and I have literally downloaded cash flows from all the top accounting programs and revised it, because it's if you're not an accountant, reading that cash flow statement is kind of, it's a little bit backwards, right? Because they're not really talking about the cash you have; they're talking about a difference in cash, and I think it makes people nervous about it. So I usually download that and then kind of revise it a little bit to make it a little bit easier to understand, so they can start really paying attention to it. But I think those three statements for anybody is an important aspect in how do you manage your organization financially. If you know, though, I'll even say fourth, right? You're right. You started with the chart of accounts. So chart of accounts, P&L, balance sheet, and statement of cash flow. If you have a controlling information or controlling aspect of that, you will understand your business like you never thought you could.
Oh, absolutely. And I get what you're saying with the operating cash flow, and it's the flow of cash. But I think it's one of the most valuable ones. And then my second one would be gross margin. But to your point, it helps you. I wish we had more time to talk about the stories that the financials can tell. Actually, I'll take 1 minute. I had a business owner, did 300,000, did $600,000 of revenue, had $400,000 of cash in the bank, cash. I asked her, between you and your husband, family owned business, which one of you is risk averse? She looked at me. How'd you know? I said, because you generate $600,000 of revenue, but you're keeping $400,000 in cash, which means you're afraid to lose this and invest it into the business. She said, my husband's the one that's risk averse. right? Just those simple little statements tell such a story.
Do you have any websites or anything that you want to give people that can go to just to start this process?
So the first thing I would do is I would say visit SCORE. I believe it's www.score.org to put your team of advisors in place, and specifically those who have financial wherewithal, because you're not going to go to school and learn this in a matter of months. So you need to hire professionals around you. So SCORE provides mentorship. I will use government agencies that are tax dollars paid for, like the Small Business Development Center, which provides you some level of coaching. In addition to that, I would definitely look to follow your trade organizations and see what information they provide, because they do provide resources to you as well for some level of viability. And the next thing is I will go into my network, and hopefully one day I can come back and teach people about intentional networking to find that. But and then also go to TurboTax. TurboTax has webinars and sessions. If you have QuickBooks, they have webinars and sessions that can help you, watch some of these videos and digest them.
Again, thanks, Rod. I really appreciate you being here. This was a great conversation.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, man. We go way back.
This show is brought to you by Julo.shop. Experience more than just shopping at Julo.shop. It's a celebration of amazing products from Black-owned brands. Our product partners are like you and me. They had a vision, and now they're a part of the Julo family. We promise to bring you quality, convenience, and the selection that you deserve. Discover, experience, and enjoy something new at Julo.shop today. Visit www.julo.shop.
All right. Let's get into the CEO quick deep dive with Rodlens. So, Rod, tell me, what inspired you to create Anu Shante Music and embark on this journey of teaching Haitian Creole language?
Great question. And again, I'm always impressed that you're nailing it, right? So you must have watched one of the videos. So Ranu is a project between me and my best friend, Cassandra Piton, right? We started a company for the Six Media because we have six kids between us, and this is for them. And we're realizing we're first generation American. So I speak Creole and I understand Creole, but I don't speak it as well as my father. And our children will not speak it as well as us. So, particularly for me, I just noticed and I saw that my history and my culture may not extend to my grandchildren, and it may have actually ended with me, right? And so I created a project because we realized there's several of us out there that are second, third generations, and we claim Haitian, but we can't speak the language. And there's a disconnect when you can't speak the language. So we started this project with the hopes of teaching at a very young age through song the Haitian Creole, as well as some of the sounds of Haiti.
Nice, nice. How does Anu Shante music align with your personal values and passion of promoting your culture awareness and education?
So I am big on family. I'm big on family. So finding a way to empower families to hold on to their history was important to me, and as well as sense of community. I think I grew up first generation. I went to English as a second language school, and my language created a small community for me. And I want to empower other children again to have that sense of community. So my values are family, education, faith, and citizenship. So Ono Shante is doing just that, reaching young kids, empowering them through the language, expanding the Haitian community, and embracing our youth, even if they're second or third removed, right? And making them feel empowered, which allows them to now walk into any environment with some level of confidence and pride in being Haitian.
So how do you incorporate traditional Haitian music into the education materials?
So that's a great question, Janae. So very similar to how anyone would learn in the United States, head, shoulder, knees, and toes, we're using song to teach kids. We do the same thing, but in Creole. Now, the nuance is we use the sounds of Haiti. So the guitars, which someone like once you hear that, it's Haitian. The piano, right? So we incorporate some of the sounds that are very specific to regions, right? Every region has a particular sound. So we incorporate it, but we're teaching you basics, fundamentals, good eating habits, nursery rhymes in Creole.
What impact do you envision this having on language education, especially in preserving and promoting the Haitian Creole language?
So right now, what you see, if you're still on Instagram, there's several people that are trying to teach it in their own method, right? Some just straight vocabulary. So what I'm envisioning is actually I know Duolingo, which is a famous language software, has now introduced Haitian Creole. I believe this is I'm hoping at some point this becomes a language you can study at the collegiate level. But in the interim, what I foresee is us as a community creating our own pockets of schools, owning our own teaching platforms to really ingratiate our youth, whether they're second and third year removed, back into the fold. So I'm really hoping this becomes a platform that's owned and controlled and created by people of Haitian descent.
What message would you like to share with our audience about the importance of preserving languages and embracing cultural diversity through initiatives like Are You Shante?
I never even defined it. Anushante means let's sing, by the way, in Creole. So just like hip hop, how hip hop has become a culture, its own sense of community, its own fashion, its own brand, we believe that Haitian culture and any culture has the same impact. It can be promoted and giving people a place to fit in. I know for me, uh, the music is how I learned. It's how me and my family bonded growing up in the United States with immigrant parents. I know it's what gave me a sense of confidence and artistry and the ability to be invited on this platform. So we believe by keeping to the language, which is the heart of a culture, now surrounding it with the foods and the arts, I believe it just enhances the mindset of anyone who's still connected to a culture. And then it also allows us to practice empathy. It allows us to see the world on a global scale. Because if you can accept your culture, you could probably understand someone else's culture and that they have one. So I know for me, music, being Haitian, growing up in the United States, I have even more a sense of urgency now to promote all diversity, Guyanese, Trinidadian, Jamaican, including Haitian, to any person of color and anyone else who wants to learn, to see that we are all these different people that share all these rich teachings. So that's my message. I hope I answered your question. Whenever you ask me about Haitian culture, I will just start running with it. So sorry.
No, I think that was perfect. I think like you're saying, music has always been that international language, right? That no matter what language you speak, once that beat drops, you don't fully understand the words, but you get into it and you start to feel it. So, and especially for kids, right? That's how we all learned everything we do. ABCs is a song, right?
And listen, Michael Jackson messed me up, man. I pronounced everything wrong. Everything wrong. I did all that wrong. Right?
No, absolutely. I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing Anu Shante become something. And I think the connection of culture, where it's your main driven purpose, with someone like you who understands the business aspect of something, this will be something that's going to be big. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and Are You Shante being very successful in this community. And congratulations. And again, thank you for being on our show. It was a great conversation, and we look forward to speaking to you again, because I know we have a lot of different things we could talk about.
Thank you so much. And Anushante, let's sing.
We sincerely appreciate you being a part of Right on the Money. Among the multitude of podcasts available, we're truly honored that you've chosen to listen to ours. If you or someone you know would bring valuable insights as a guest on our show, we invite you to access the guest request form linked in our show notes. We're always excited to connect with remarkable individuals. Remember, you have the power to share the gift of high-level business advice with the CEOs in your life. By spreading the word about our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you help us reach a broader audience and create a more significant impact. Stay inspired, keep growing, and join us again next time for more insightful discussions.